Good morning, everyone. As you enter the room with us this morning, we're happy to have you here. We're going to wait just a minute or so to allow folks some time to hop in the room with us before we start the event. So for now, we'd like to suggest that for optimal viewing, that you use the hide non-video participant setting and that you also use gallery view. So those options should be at the top where it says view options. So again, we suggest that you hide non-video participants and use gallery view, and that will be optimal viewing. So again, we'll wait just a minute or so and then we'll get started.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Bryce Besser, and I'm the chair for the UC San Diego Staff Association. And on behalf of the Staff Association and Human Resources, I'd like to welcome you all to another installment of our Cabinet Conversations. As you all probably know by now, Cabinet Conversations is a series of conversations with cabinet members, and it's designed to provide staff the opportunity to get to know our campus leaders on a more personal level, but also to hear what the leaders have to say about important topics that are impacting our campus. And this actually came out of your requests from the Staff at Work surveys, from the Cooks Engagement Survey, that's the Council for UC Staff Assemblies, and also the Idea Wave that was part of the strategic plan that we did. And so it's really something that's a product of your comments and the things that you were asking for. And so we're happy to be able to present this another installment today. So today's webinar features Alysson Satterlund. She's the Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs. And before we begin, I just want to do a couple housekeeping items. So we are recording this. Just wanted to let everyone know that we are recording this for future viewing. For the best viewing experience, the tips are in the chat there. We've also taken a number of precautions to prevent Zoom bombing, and that includes having folks have their video and audios off. We've also attempted to limit the logins to only those that have UC San Diego login credentials. If for some reason, though, a participant were to interrupt this webinar or attempt to post inappropriate things, we'll end it immediately, and then we'll find another opportunity to engage in this dialogue. We've received some questions up front today that we're going to be asking Alysson, but for those that didn't have a chance to submit questions that want to, the chat function, the questions and answers function is available, and we have moderators that are moderating that. So please feel free to type in your questions in that, and we'll try to get to those as we can. For any questions that we're not able to get to, we'll go ahead and save those questions so that we can then either work with Alysson or someone else, another appropriate department on campus, to see if we can get those questions answered. So with that, I wanted to go ahead and welcome Alysson. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. And thank you so much for inviting us to your house. With the modern technology in Zoom, it's just amazing how we've been so much more connected than ever before, I feel. And you know, inviting us over into your backyard, which what it looks like here is very nice. So thank you for taking the time today to talk with us.
Absolutely. And just to forewarn, remote learning has started in my household, and I have a big family, so I have no idea what you might hear or what might come across the screen. So just so you know, Bryce.
That's okay. Yes, we're all having to give each other grace. I'm in the same boat. I have a background out right now, so you don't see me sitting in my messy office, and you never know, I might get a visitor as well, or we might hear some arguing downstairs with my kids as well. So you never know what's going to happen there. But again, thank you so much. So why don't we go ahead and just jump right off, get to know you a little bit better here.
Sure.
I think what a lot of folks might be wondering is, how you've been spending your non-work time right now during kind of this time of social distancing, if you have any hobbies.
Well, I wish I could say I had some exciting hobby, or, like I was a significant artist of some kind, or, that I am a backpacker, or, just something really, really cool. But I have to say that when I'm not engaged in my work, my hobby is my family. And, I'm technically probably laundry is my hobby because it's how I spend a lot of my free time. I bet a lot of other caregivers are in a similar situation. I do love to read when I do have some free time, and love to read, what my kids are reading, just so we have something happening in common, because my kids are in a really wide range of ages. And my kids are also really engaged when we're not in COVID in sports and those kinds of activities, of which I was never an athlete in any regard. So I'm always looking for ways to share and connect with them. Those are sort of my hobbies. And for COVID-19, I've been super engaged in the hobby of laundry and trying to keep my family as safe as possible during this time, and doing a little bit of reading, but that's, and trying to walk, trying to stay, physically active without all the usual running around that COVID has, restricted us a bit. So trying to stay healthy physically, as well as emotionally and mentally. So how about you, Bryce?
Yeah, I mean, which is all very busy. Yeah, and it's all very challenging, right? I mean, I'm the same way. I would love to be able to say that I've been packing everything in the summer, but it just really hasn't happened that way. I mean, we've had a chance to have some pool days with a family who, was just up the street from us, and they're keeping things very, very small. And so that's been nice because our son was able to kind of push through. He knows how to swim, but he was still fearful of the water, but he was able to kind of push through that fear. And now, I'm kind of, we did a beach day or two, right? But we live right around the corner from the beach. We weren't able to do that. I mean, I think a lot of folks just have their own unique challenges, right? And, we just all have to make decisions that are best for our families. And mine was just to kind of keep it tight and kind of lay low for a while. And now, distance learning is looming, right? My son starts first grade on the 31st. And so I think that's kind of the next step, is to see how life is going to progress and change in the next couple of weeks. So, and kind of, I guess, maybe a segue into that. The next question would be, you've mentioned that you have a larger family, that you have multiple kids, and so I'm a father of two, and I'm a working dad. My wife works at a surgery center. She's an administrator at a surgery center, so we have busy lives with work. And I'm sure that you have a very, very busy, work schedule. So, I mean, what advice do you have, or that you could offer for staff who are balancing work with parenting and, distance learning or other types of online learning?
Yeah, I wish I could say, in my 20 years of parenting, these are the three things that you need to do. But I like everybody, really struggle with trying to find the balance, because I really want to make sure that my kiddos have my full attention, and have support from my partner and from me. And I think what I've learned over time is to try to manage my expectations of myself and my partner in that regard, to cut each other some slack, because we have to balance it. I mean, we're scheduling, like right now, while I'm with you all and spending time with you, Bryce, Travis is with Dylan, who's our youngest, who requires much, much more attention. And my 9th grader and 6th grader started remote learning today, and they're in their classrooms right now inside. And then when I'm finished, I have a break at noon, I'll step away and do caregiving with Dylan, and probably some reading of email. and Travis will have some work time. So we're just spending a lot of time negotiating with one another. I think the other thing too is if you feel comfortable to be as candid with your supervisor and your workers about some of these challenges, so that you might be able to make a plan with your colleagues and with your supervisor that allow for some flexibility and to accommodate some of these challenges. And then I think also to remember that we're all in this, right? Like we were chatting a little bit earlier as we were getting started. Hey, my kiddos might be coming down, asking me a Zoom question. Dylan might get suddenly extremely loud, and I might need to step away. And that happened yesterday during a call, and everybody was very gracious and kind about it. But it's also because I was vulnerable about what I needed from the folks that I was working with in that moment to tend to this other incredibly important aspect of my life. But that's also, I have to admit, it's been really, really challenging. My house is not as tidy as my mother, the Air Force brat, would like it to be. I have to say that I'd like it to be a little bit more tidy too. But I also realize, if there's some dust bunnies here, that's better than not having some time with my kiddo. So I've cut myself some slack over the years, but it's definitely a challenge.
Yeah, no, I agree. I find myself working a lot more than what I had anticipated during this time. And I need to do a better job of taking breaks. I just have not been taking breaks. So even though I'm home, I'm not present. And I think that might have, some impacts on the kids. And so I've been trying to look at ways to build out time and be upfront with my supervisor and also, my colleagues. And I think that that's one other thing that I've noticed is that, especially because, I have the honor of, being able to serve on, the Return to Campus group and be part of some of those conversations. I enjoy the Staff Association enjoys a very nice relationship with Nancy Resnick, our CHRO. And so we have conversations with her about, the way that the campus needs to be supporting staff and supervisors need to support staff. And I think one thing that I also wanted to kind of emphasize, or at least I try to emphasize with my colleagues, is that just like you said, we're all in this together. So we really need to give grace to each other, right? Our colleagues. And so how can I maybe plan out my days better so that I'm not sending something to a colleague that's very urgent, right? Or if I do send something to someone, it's, maybe I can give a proposed timeline that they could get back to me if it was ideal for them. And then maybe in my conversations with other folks, I can kind of build in those expectations as well about, I've got your email and I'll carve out some time to get back to you in the next couple of days. When do you need this by? I mean, it's simple conversations like that. I think that would be very helpful for staff to help balance it. And I think if we're upfront and just transparent about our needs, my hope is that helps alleviate some of the stress that each staff member might be feeling.
I agree. And in the informality of our conversation, Bryce, I can't draw on the specific details, but I believe there's some additional COVID-19 family leave that is available for folks. And I think we should celebrate that we have that resource and encourage folks to utilize it, because I think that folks have earned that benefit. And if it, reduces the physical and psychological stress on a family, on our team member to utilize it, then we should encourage that as well, to use all of our resources to support each other.
Sorry. Yeah, that's an excellent point. And you're right. There is that resource. It's I do not have all the specifics either, but it is something that we have through the end of the year, right? And so it is a resource to use. So that's a very, very good point. So kind of transitioning maybe to another topic that some of the staff have been interested in, and I know this is a huge goal of the Staff Association, and that is building community, right? And so one of the things that the Staff Association really tried to do almost immediately when many of us started getting pulled into our homes to do remote work was, how do we continue to build community when we're not on campus?
Right.
And so I have a feeling that that's also a big, something that's big for you as well. So in your mind, how can we, the campus, continue to build community, stay connected with each other when we have such a large population of staff that are working remotely?
It's an incredibly important question. And, you know, one of the things that we've done in student affairs, and I want to give a huge shout out to the Professional Development Committee in Student Affairs. And Bryce, you might have talked with them a little bit about the work they did with Triton Time. Triton Time can serve as just an example, right? Like the week before we moved to remote instruction and remote work, you know, we said, this move is happening so swiftly. Like, we need to be able to at least have a space where people can come together, share information, share some tips with each other. Really, I mean, maybe just have a place to share concerns, vent a little bit. And so that first Thursday of our spring quarter, we just had coffee and COVID. I mean, just an informal conversation, and committed to doing that every Thursday at 10. And it got more sophisticated in its planning. Now folks can submit proposals. The Professional Development Committee takes complete leadership for the content, shares it. People can participate sort of the day of, or visit the recordings. And I think it's, you know, the creativity of the community and being responsive to that in a really timely way, I think is one important way to create community, to use the technology and tools that we do have, even if they're modest, like Zoom, like what we're doing right now, I think is great. I think, you know, also encouraging some shared experiences, and it may be, hey, we're gonna commit to a book club, even though we may not be able to come together and in person, you know, share lunch together and talk about the book, but let's commit to sending books to folks' home and then coming together via Zoom to chat and share. You know, we have also been looking at, you know, organizations that have been doing remote work for much longer than we have in higher education, and learning from them about how they stay connected and engaged with their team members. One of the silver linings of, you know, the remote work environment, from my perspective, that has actually created quite a bit of community, is that Zoom allows multiple people to be together, when before we'd be really limited by space, or I wouldn't have time to move from one meeting across campus to get to the other meeting on campus. And so I might miss it and not be able to participate. Now we can have, you know, 25 people on a call when we would normally only be able to have 10 people in an in-person meeting. And I think that's actually created a lot more engagement and community in a positive way. I think continuing to use Zoom as an engagement tool is also been more inclusive. You know, more folks can participate in those conversations and troubleshooting and community building. You know, and then I think finally towards this, Bryce, is what you all have done with the Staff Association is really respond to the feedback, right? Like what would people like to see to feel more connected? And it may be a Zoom-free afternoon on Friday, so people can have some Zoom-free respite. So when they re-engage, you know, the next time they're in their virtual office, or, you know, on campus doing essential work, they have some, they're energized again.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I guess I can plug the Staff at Work survey, which just came out. So for folks that haven't already filled that out, and please do fill the Staff at Work survey out. It's a little bit longer this year because there's added questions about COVID-19 and its impacts to you. But campus leaders are looking at those results, and those results will be used to plan ahead. And so please, you know, carve out some time and to fill it out, and, you know, be honest and make sure that you that you lend your voice to this process, because, you know, staff, I want you all to know that, you know, your voice is very, very important now. And folks like Alysson and other campus leaders are looking to those results to see how, you know, how we can impact some change on campus, right, in the months moving forward. One thing, so I'm looking at the questions and answers, and I wanted to kind of step back a bit because I really liked this question. I'm going to go ahead and read it. I don't know who sent it out. It's anonymous. I don't know who's sending it out, but it goes back to kind of how we're balancing our time with work and home. And I just like the way it was phrased. So let me read this. It says, how do you deal with mom guilt, or in my case, feeling anxious about trying to not look like slacking at work because I'm dealing with kid issues?
Yeah, it's like, it's a very important question. How do I deal with mom guilt? I think I acknowledge that my partner is just as important of a caregiver and parent as I am. And he doesn't have dad guilt. And so I've learned a lot from him, that my internalized mom guilt is socialized. And I remember something, in conversation that he shared with me. And I think I don't remember exactly what I was fussing about, but he said to me, maybe I was valuing my mothering over his fathering in some way. And he said, you're a feminist. I can't believe that you're holding on to these sort of old stereotypical notions, around mothering. And I think that sort of set me free. It doesn't mean that there are times when I'm like, gosh, I would love to be at this thing and also be really present for an opportunity at work or a responsibility that I have at work. But, I really have embraced this idea that my children learn a lot by also problem solving for themselves, that I am also teaching my children about hard work and about shared responsibility in the household. I happen to have all sons, and that also frees me a little bit to think about the fact that they're seeing partnership modeled in a way in which, the male parent in our household is a sort of a cisgendered heteronormative family, is a full participant. And I know that not everybody has that privilege, but for me, that has helped me tremendously in sort of managing my mom guilt, in part because I realized that it was totally patriarchal to participate in that mom guilt. And again, I go back to the sort of talking about what I need when I'm trying to balance my work commitments and my responsibilities, and then also, talking with team members and saying, hey, I am not able to be here in this time. Would you be my designee? Would you serve in this capacity? And I think that's also been great for me to have the opportunity to work closely with folks that I may not have been able to work with before. And also, in a service-oriented industry like higher education, I think we do work with colleagues who want to be able to offer help and be partners to us when we're trying to balance different responsibilities, whether that's mothering or caregiving for a parent or a loved one, or our fur babies as well, which require our attention. So that's how I handle it. I don't know if that's helpful or not to the person who offered the question in the chat.
This is really
Yeah.
This was
I
really
don't know.
well said.
I don't know, Bryce, do you have dad guilt sometimes?
I do. I mean, I battle with a lot of those issues a lot of times where, I get impatient with my kids and I wish I didn't. And maybe I wasn't as supportive in this instance as I could have been. And speaking of which, yes,
Hi there.
hold on one second.
Perfect example of what we're talking about.
One second. Sorry. He's
Okay. Don't apologize.
He's looking to log into RazKids, and he needs to know the password and where the iPad is. And I said, well, it should be your login for your school, and the iPad, I think, is in your room because we use it for a noisemaker right now.
It's tough, right? It's tough.
So, I mean, right, case in point here. I mean, I would love
That's
it
right.
I would love it if I had this sterile environment where I could just talk to you and not have interruptions. But this is, I mean, this is real life, and I think, I mean, yes, I struggle with a lot of things, right? My wife works as a surgery center at a surgery center, and so she's in the office, you know, most of the time, right, during the week, and so I'm at home. I'm fortunate that we have daycare, right, which consists of my mom and my mother-in-law. So I'm super fortunate that we have them in the house right now, which also is one of the reasons why we wanted to keep things very tight, because we have them in the house so much, so we needed to be safe, and so that's amazing for the kids. But also at the same time, if I'm upstairs all day with very little breaks, yeah, I feel guilty about that. So trying to find ways to just build in more time with my kids is something that I always struggle with. And I'm just thankful that I am at UC San Diego, right? I was a former practicing attorney, and so I was living the firm life for a number of years before coming over here. And, you know, I've found a very good fit with UC, and it's nice to be back, right? I'm a UC Santa Barbara grad, and it's nice to be back. I think from my perspective, what I talk to people about if they ever ask my opinion, which isn't very often, but sometimes I'm very open to share my experiences with folks. And now I'm sharing it with all of you here in Zoom, and it's being memorialized in video so everybody can hear it. But, you know, it's kind of been my mantra throughout the whole time that I became a dad, and that was just do what works, right? What works for our family is not necessarily going to work or be best for another family. And a book, right, might tell you one thing, or 5 books might tell you one thing or multiple things, but you know, something that works for you is just something that you got to do. And I think it's the same thing when it comes to balancing the work life. I think it's being upfront with ourselves, having a frank discourse with our supervisors, right, to make sure that we're all on the same page, and then just doing the best that we can with what works. And that's going to look much different than, you know, it's going to look different between people. And I think asking for help, which can be hard, right? It's hard for me to ask for help sometimes as well. You know, as I balance my work, my family life, the staff association, for example, right? Sometimes it's hard to ask for help. And so being able to find those times to ask for help, and the times that I have asked for help in any area, right, of life, I've been very pleasantly surprised at the responses that I get. So if there's one thing that I know folks are here to hear you talk and not me, so I want to get back to the questions, but yeah, if there's one piece of advice that I could give people, it's, yeah, ask for help if you need it, because, you know, we're in this together, we're all here together, and we need to just be a supportive group and do what works.
Right, that's right. And I think that's also a good reminder for those of us that can, if you can offer help too, right? Knowing that it's not always easy for people to ask for help. That's a great point. Well, thanks, Bryce. I didn't mean to pry.
No, it's okay. I'm happy to contribute to the conversations. And there's, you know, for the folks that are joining us on Zoom, I mean, there's a number of different initiatives that the Staff Association and others are working on. HR and your office might be working on a number of initiatives. You know, we've got the Create Center, and the Staff Association is looking at ways to kind of help provide resources to staff, you know, who are battling with these things, or I shouldn't say battling because that's a poor way to say it, but who are, you know,
working through.
Yeah, working through, grappling with, right? And so the campus knows about these things, and we are working towards, you know, providing resources. And so again, one of the best ways I think for staff to help the process is to speak up. And there's a number of ways that they could do that, right? You could contact the Staff Association, you can contact campus leaders, you know, Alyson's office, for example, or our CHRO. So there are resources, right?
Right, not enough. I mean, I think, you know, the childcare shortage on campus, I mean, nationally, right, childcare has always been an elder care, really expensive, really significant challenge and barriers. I know that the summer knockaround camp was adapted for folks and COVID-19, and that went well. And so we've talked internally about, could we offer something similar for fall, just to be part of the solution in this regard, even though we know that it's really a drop in the bucket around need. But yeah, we have to keep bringing these issues forward. And I think also, you know, really working with our legislature and with our governmental officials families need to speak up about investing in early childhood education and making it affordable and accessible, because we also know it's great for kids.
Yeah, that reminds me. So because I'm on this council for the CUCSA, which is the Council for UC Staff Assemblies, I learned of, so it's UCAN, it's the UC Advocacy Network. So UCAN.
Okay, you can. I'm gonna write that down.
And so you can Google that. And basically, if you sign up for it, you get announcements and letter writing campaigns and other things like email writing campaigns to legislatures. And so for staff that are on the line here with us today, it's UCAN, UC Advocacy Network. And you can sign up for it. And sometimes they actually have emails that are pre-populated. You can edit them, right, to tell your own story. And you select where you live. Basically, it kind of goes by zip code or something, and you can send out things very easily. So for those that are involved in kind of, working on and exercising your voice in that way, that's another opportunity, I think.
Okay.
So there's a few more questions here and some other important
Sorry.
points that we want to get to. I think this is all really good though. So right now we're in the third week of the Chancellor's 21-day anti-racism challenge.
That's right.
I've been able to attend the Friday webinars, and I've been able to do some of the readings and viewings. And so just wanted to kind of, from your perspective, hear why it's important for staff to participate in that.
Well, first I want to acknowledge the Chancellor and VC Pettit and her team for bringing this resource to our campus. I think it's incredibly important for lots of reasons. I mean, I'm not saying anything radical by acknowledging that we live in a white supremacist society. And I think as a learning organization, as an institution of higher education, we should be just as devoted to our own awareness and learning and education as we are to our students. And I think that this is an opportunity for all of us who strive to, to be anti-racist in our daily practice and in our lives as personal, in a personal way and as professionals to learn more and to be as aware of the tools that are available to us as possible. So, in that regard, I would encourage all of us, staff, faculty, students, to participate, and we're going to really put the resource of our time to this. What I see as a real opportunity, particularly as a person who identifies as white and has had the privileges of that bestowed upon me. So again, I hope that people are taking it as a responsibility as well as an opportunity.
Yeah, the materials that I've been able to participate in, I mean, they're very powerful. And to those that haven't already been able to participate with the Friday discussions, I would encourage everyone to check that out and try to carve out time with their calendar to attend that webinar. It's very well done. It's very eye-opening, and again, very powerful stuff. So thank you so much, Alysson, for weighing in on that. It is an extremely important time for our campus and nation and world, a lot of things. And so being able to participate in these types of anti-racism talks is just extremely important.
Agreed. And I hope that what it allows us to do is recognize that this is ongoing work, right? And it's not just a training or a seminar, right? That it's really an introduction to the lifelong learning and practice and action that we all have the responsibility and opportunity to be a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Our Black Staff Association, for example, was very active with, their own, the webinars that they had put forward with Dr. Starla Lewis, and they were very active in the summer celebration. I kind of wanted to maybe segue into talking a little bit about the summer celebration. And thank you so much for submitting, your video of thanks. For the staff that haven't had a chance to go to the website, you can find the virtual Staff Summer Celebration website, and it's still up. And you can find it through the Staff Association's website. And you can see we've had more videos this year, and thanks from cabinet members and executive leaders, I think, than ever before. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but there's so many that were really, really well done, and I loved yours. So thank you again for submitting that. So what are you most grateful for in terms of the student affairs staff? You gave kudos, but can you kind of expand a little bit more about what you're grateful for?
Well, I mean, the list is so long. I think first and foremost to our essential team members who have been on campus every day, right? Maintaining the fields and the facilities and, really ensuring that when we do get to be back on campus, that the facilities will be just as beautiful as they were when we were not on campus. I just am so grateful to our essential team in maintenance and facilities. I've also been really proud of the work that our student facing team members have done. I mean, moving our entire success coaching program online, OASIS, working with other campus partners, created a remote summer bridge program. I mean, and served, almost 500 students. I mean, that's spectacular. And, I think about the collaborations around the virtual student union and, really embracing some technology. And then, oh my gosh, the work of our business office and all of our HR officers with, the Enterprise Renewal System project. They continued that project during COVID-19. I mean, that is just remarkable to me. And, our coaches who have continued to, keep the faith during a D1 transition that wasn't exactly as we imagined. So, I've just been really proud of the team for also keeping students at the center of the work during a really challenging time. I don't remember one team member at any point in this process of moving remote saying, well, that's not my job. Every single person has pitched in across units, just doing their very best. I've just been really humbled by how hard everybody's been working and the creativity. I could just go on and on about this, Bryce. I'm just really proud of everybody. The recreation team for the virtual playground and, the work of student conduct behind the scenes, continuing to ensure students have due process, because student conduct has continued to be busy whether students are on campus or not. I mean, it's just been amazing. I'm really proud of everybody.
Yeah, no, thank you. And definitely, again, folks that are joining us on the line here, or whatever you call it. I say on the line, like we're talking.
It's like it's a radio show kind of.
Yeah, right.
If
you're on the line with us,
Podcast.
exactly. Just feel free. I know that we put into the chat the link to the leadership videos. If you haven't already, please take a look at them. They're very well done, and they're speaking from the heart. And you can see my face up there as well. But really go on there and see everybody's videos. We encourage you to do that. So maybe this is a good time to transition, and I want to make sure that I'm respectful of your time. I think our stop time was close to 10:45. I don't know how we're doing on that. If you can go, if we're running a little long, or if we have to have a hard stop, just let me know.
Okay.
So, you mentioned how staff, and this has just been a common theme about how staff quickly had to pick up, go home, and resume operations, right? Business continuity. Right. And I mean, I've been just amazed at how the staff really just pulled together and got work done, right?
Yep.
And at very high levels. I mean, we've
Yes.
been working at very, very high levels, right? And so it's just been completely awe-inspiring to me. And, the more we can kind of celebrate those things and acknowledge, the staff and the good work that they're doing, I think the better. So one thing that I think is on everyone's minds, right, is the transition to on-campus, work again. And things are in flux, right? We know that. And so we can all kind of anticipate that. And we don't necessarily have all the answers today. Right. But one thing that I wanted to ask was, so we've heard that for folks that are working remotely, that we will continue to work remotely until December 31st, if not beyond December 31st, right? Let's just be honest there. So it's through December 31st. The majority of staff working remotely will continue to do so. What about staff, though, that are student-facing, that are working directly with students? Can you tell us a little bit more about the decision-making process that's going into how departments would be reintegrating staff back on campus?
Right. So I know that There are some cabinet level recommendations that'll be coming forth to campus as it relates to each of the vice chancellor areas working specifically within their areas to make determinations from a set of principles, I think, that are, equity minded, about safety and well-being, of course. So in student affairs, we started this conversation, maybe, gosh, in Zoom time, it's hard to recall exactly, but I'd say at least a month ago, maybe 2 months ago in May, I guess, really thinking about what would return to site look like with this in mind. And what we're going to be doing is working really unit by unit, thinking about the workspaces. Can we ensure that the workspaces where team members may come back to at an appropriate time, are they well suited for physical distancing? A lot of our teams work in pretty tight spaces and, serving multiple students at one time. So, our goal is to work up a plan that is unit by unit, working with the supervisors and the team members, that respects the team members' needs around much of what we're talking about. If you've got caregiving responsibilities, you can't actually be on site also, right? Especially if you can't secure affordable, high quality care for your loved ones. I anticipate that we'll be looking at plans that may be part-time, making sure that a person and another partner, colleague are in the office together, so maybe just office hour kind of experiences for, in-person visits with students. Again, everyone would need to have a face covering, thinking about security and well-being as well. But each of our supervisors and units will be working up a plan, and then I'll be reviewing and providing approval and feedback on those. But again, we're going to have to continue to be flexible. What October looks like may look very different than December, right? And also trying to work with people based on their own comfort level with being back on campus.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, and again, things are changing, right? And so for staff members and anyone, right, who's joining us right now, there are town halls, and so the staff town hall is coming up. Another staff town hall is coming up this Thursday. So check that out online and join the conversation there. So we only have a few more minutes here left. I wanted to make sure that maybe we can get a couple more questions in.
Sure.
So I think so I'm in risk management on campus, right? That's my real job, right? The staff association isn't my full-time job. My full-time job is as risk management. And I'm not necessarily student facing, although I do interact with many departments who do serve students, the Center for Student Involvement,
Yep.
OASIS, TRIO, others, right? Where I get to actually help problem solve and help, when it comes to the virtual webinars and that sort of thing and risks involved. So for kind of on the student side of things, what are we really hearing from our students right now? I mean, I guess put it another way, how can staff support their experience, right? If it's the student-facing staff or if it's the non-student-facing staff like myself.
Right. So, actually right before our conversation, Bryce, we had our student affairs leadership team meeting, and we had an overview of the UC undergraduate experience survey data. And students are feeling lonely and disconnected and isolated and disappointed. I mean, think about what our experience has been. Imagine being not able to have commencement, or not be able to have your high school graduation or your community college graduation, and then not be able to actually be on campus to experience some of the traditions and community building in person. And that's very real for students. So, a couple things come to mind. One, move-in day. We are partnering in support of our colleges who have a staggered move-in because of COVID-19 between September 19th and September 29th. I imagine anybody who would like to volunteer would be welcomed, and that's a great way to interface with students and their families. And obviously we'll have all the safety guidelines in place for that. Another way to connect is through mentoring and advocating for students, making sure that any of your projects that you're working on, bring a voice to the table. Work with AS, GSA, the Student Affirmative Action Committee, to have an appointment to the work that you're doing. Include them hire students as part of your teams. You know, we have a colleague, Dr. Ebony Williams, who'll be leading a mentoring initiative across campus on behalf of the EDC that we're really excited about, because we just imagine that there are so many talented staff members who would make great mentors. So I think it would be great to have Ebony join one of these conversations and talk with you about that initiative. It's a great way for staff to plug in and support our students now and in the future.
Yeah, I agree. I think that would be great. And Dr. Ebony, was a chair for our staff association, and so
That's right.
I mean, she's been very involved. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to the mentoring program and learning more about that. Okay, so we are at 10:45. Maybe I can sneak one more question in, or
yes,
yeah,
I'd love that. You bet.
Okay, so let's try to sneak one more in here. And again, just as a reminder, we did get some question and answers that came in during the session today, and there's a couple on my list here that we haven't gotten a chance to get to, but we'll save those. And we'll see if we can get those over to your office, and maybe we can get those answered, in a different way.
Sure.
Other than live here, I mean. Okay, so kind of to cap us off and to end it off, it's kind of one of those basic questions, right? Opportunities or challenges this year. But really, I guess what I'd like to hear is what are you excited about as we look towards starting a new school year?
One of the things I love most about my work is the opportunity to look to the future. And I always feel like, hey, this year, maybe we didn't get all the things that we had hoped to accomplish, but there's next year. So, I'm eager to see the creativity that will come out of fall quarter, particularly now that we'll have a number of students on campus. I'm really excited about the work that's happening with Triton Weeks of Welcome, just a way for many people to engage with students both remotely and in person. And I think that will be launching here this week or early next. And I'm really excited about the opportunity to welcome new students to our community from around the world. And again, whether they're with us in person or participating remotely, and also thinking about the power of higher education, that we get to continue to do this work and invite more people to be a part of our learning community here in the next month or so. I mean, that just thrills me every time. So I'm always hopeful about the new year and looking forward to welcoming new members, whether they're family and siblings of our new students, or our new students or our continuing students that just continue to surprise and inspire me every day.
Yeah, really well said. No, and I think what I've seen and what I keep emphasizing in a lot of conversations that I have is, this pandemic has really demonstrated that our campus is, definitely a huge part of the experience, right?
That's right.
It has to be, right? But the spirit of UC, right, is with us anywhere we are at any time of the day. And so when we're working out of our homes, if we're folks that are still on campus that never left and are keeping everything running very smoothly, right? We are all still UC, and we bring that spirit, wherever we are. And so, there's the campus definitely is a unifying space, but it still doesn't mean that, UC lives on, even though we're not on campus right now like we once were.
That's right. Our mission remains. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sticking on the line for a couple of extra minutes here. That is all the time that we have today. I really am appreciative of your time, Alysson. Thank you so much for joining us. And again, for those that submitted questions today, we're going to go ahead and save those questions if we didn't get to them, and we'll get them over to Alysson, or to some of those that came in might not necessarily be the best place. Alyson's office might not be the best place for those, so we'll find out maybe where to get those. Some of those questions might be answered in the town hall. They might come into something in discussion in the town hall later this week. So I encourage you to look into attending that if you can. And also please mark your calendars. So September 22nd at 10 o'clock is when we're going to be joined by VC Gary Matthews for another installment of the Cabinet Conversations. I want to thank you all for participating in this webinar. I hope that you all have a great rest of your week, and please be well, everyone. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everybody. Take care. Thank you so much for the thoughtful conversation, Bryce. Sorry about the hammering in the background.
It's all right. It worked out just fine. Thanks.